One of 3 votes to end Stonegarden came from Supervisor Ramon Valadez. Months earlier, he cast the tie-breaking vote opting to continue the program as long as the department met certain conditions. This time around, Supervisor Christy was the only supervisor present to support Stonegarden. Both joined us to explain their differences.
I look at it totally as a political issue. For 12 years, this Board of Supervisors, which Supervisor Valadez and the 2 other Democrats majority on the board served upon for 12 years under 2 different administrations, the bulk of which was under the Obama administration. That money from Stonegarden was readily accepted. It was a routine matter that was buried in the consent agenda, and there was no discussion. What caused that money all of a sudden to become nefarious in nature and suspect? One reason and one reason only, and it's political, and it's because of President Trump. And the opponents of accepting the Stonegarden grant are doing so not because the money is inherently bad or that it's going to bad things and doing bad things. It's because it's an attempt to take a swipe at President Trump and the administration. Pure and simple. It's political.
The issue is, if you really think about the discussion that's been happening nationally, when we had started this whole discussion earlier this year, that was 2 Homeland Security secretaries ago, when we were talking about the wall, we were talking about more deportations. Since that time, we're now talking about children being separated from their families, children in detention centers who are being abused and molested by the people that are supposed to be taking care of them, a zero tolerance policy, criminalizing of asylum seekers, which we've never done, and on and on and on. So part of the problem is, Steve may call it politicalization, or that it's a vote against the Trump policy or the Trump administration. I would tell you it's a fundamental difference in opinion in terms of where we are going in immigration policy. And I'll tell you, I'll be very honest, neither party has been particularly good at solving the problem.
So this is principle versus public safety?
No, as a matter of fact, it's not public safety either. Remember, the Stonegarden is a $1.3 million grant that's intended for overtime and equipment in a $164 million budget. So it's less than 1%. Okay? Now let's put that in perspective. And I brought some statistics here. And let me show you a quick map. This is a map of Pima County. We have 123 miles of border. The sheriff is responsible for 4% of it. Okay? If we take a look at where the stops for Stonegarden are, and you take a look at here, over 90% of the stops are along state routes and highways, which are the jurisdiction of DPS. So, I mean, part of the question is, okay, so you have 4% of the jurisdiction. It's less than 1% of your budget. Most of your stops are in DPS jurisdiction. Okay, I understand you're trying to make an argument that we're jeopardizing public safety, but exactly where are we jeopardizing public safety? Your budget still allows the same deputies to be out on the streets. This was for overtime pay.
Ramon, Sheriff Napier wants to reapply. He's hoping that cooler heads will prevail, that if perhaps there's more time to really process this, that perhaps things could change. How likely is it that this board will eventually vote to have the money back in place?
Well, I'll tell you what, without addressing that part of it, because that's something that's obviously going to involve 3 other people than the 2 that are here. But I will tell you the process that we set up. We expanded what has been referred to as the Community Law Enforcement Partnership Commission, the CLEPC, which was originally set up as one of the 5 conditions to deal and prevent the issue of racial profiling at any level of law enforcement. What we expanded that for each district by 1 member who had to be a criminal justice expert. And so what we said is, okay, let's go ahead, and when the sheriff department is going to apply for a grant, this commission will examine the grant, give a recommendation to the sheriff and to the board when it goes out. When it comes back, if it's approved by the entity that's making the grant, then also they'll get a recommendation to the board at that point, so that the sheriff will have his opportunity to really make the merits of the discussion.
You talk about the CLPEC committee. The last meeting I attended, they could not even come to an agreement amongst themselves whether or not to accept the grant. So I'm concerned about how that committee is going to be functioning, what their mission is, how they're going to approach future grants and things of this nature. And it's not a clear-cut mission that this commission has, because there's so much disagreement amongst themselves. As I said, they couldn't even come to their own agreement about accepting this grant or not.
Many people probably see the value of including the citizen component, but when you have letters from law enforcement all over the state, Democrat and Republican, saying take the money, and you don't listen to them, does that create a problem about what you think about law enforcement in this state?
No, and I've been actually very clear. First of all, for those that came out of outside of Pima County, they're not part of this community. Bottom line, I was elected to serve our community. Those are whose priorities I place above any others.
Our Tucson police chief is hardly a Trump lover or admirer, but he vehemently asked the board to accept the Stonegarden grant. So law enforcement, regardless of their political persuasion or regardless of who they like or dislike in the White House, unanimously in our community have asked that this grant be accepted. And simply and plainly, as I've been saying all along, it's just another melodramatic political grandstanding attempt to take a swipe at President Trump.
Any immigration issue that's related to Trump policies, are you saying it's likely the Pima County Board of Supervisors, the majority perhaps, will shut it down?
What I am saying is if there's an issue that creates a perception amongst our minority and immigrant communities where they can't call the heroes that we've just talked about to come in and stop a crime, we are creating pockets of crime, and that's not an acceptable alternative to me. And the truth is, if you take a look at statistics here, we can show you that the supposed stops that are being done by the Sheriff's Department aren't along the county roads, they're along state highways and routes that should be being patrolled by DPS. So where's DPS?
But Sheriff Napier has stated consistently that the vast majority of calls that his deputies get for emergency services are those who are entering this country illegally and are in trouble and distressed. And he still says, and he has said consistently, that it doesn't matter to him or his deputies where these folks come from, how they got here, why they got here. If they're in trouble, they will be responded to by the deputies.
All right, my thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.